It is billed as the defining relationship for the next century, the great power partnership between India and America. At a recently held forum in Delhi, we discussed the contours and impact of this partnership. We held a special panel discussion to explore the evolving Indo-US collaboration in the tech sector, focusing on consumer devices. It was hosted by the US's Information Technology Industry Council, the US-India Strategic Partnership Forum, and Koan Advisory Group. I was joined by Praveen Khandelwal, Member of Parliament, S. Gopalakrishnan, Director General, National Productivity Council of India, Jason Oxman, President and CEO, Information Technology Industry Council, Deepak Jacob, President and Group General Counsel, Dream Sports, and Vivan Sharan, Partner and Co-founder, Koan Advisory Group. Watch key excerpts from this panel on the special episode of Media Dialogues with Storyboard 18. Given sort of the backdrop that I have set, Mr. Khandelwal, can you tell me, in your view, how can consumer technology be better utilized to serve the public interest? Let's start with that.
We need to have a comprehensive best practices, that is point number one, because we are talking from the point of view of consumer. As also, we need to educate and energize the consumer about the different choices. So in that case, technology is ultimately going to play a very important role. As of now, the government has done quite a lot about introduction of latest technology. So my limited point is, we have to go with a a side-by-side approach. We need to educate and empower the people who are delivering. We need to educate and empower the people who are receiving.
Quickly, if you can tell me, where does the onus lie when it comes to empowering consumers and the education aspect?
See, the onus lies on the society as a whole. If we see government will educate and empower, then government has many things to do. We need to be extended arm of the government. It is the responsibility of forum like this. It is the responsibility of the trade organizations. It is the responsibility of the social organizations. Social organization means not holding functions and all that. It is our duty, being a social animal, to empower and educate our countrymen about the development. And companies can play a bigger role, because let me put very straight, all companies under the law has a big CSR fund. So let them use their CSR fund for education and empowerment with the help of the various organizations. There are consumer organizations.
Mr. Gopalakrishnan, let me ask you this. As consumer tech, of course, becomes all pervasive, smartphones, IoT devices become more accessible, be it in the US or India. How do you see this contributing to improved productivity at a national level?
I just want to stress that to say, okay, I'm not just referring to the smartphone in somebody's hand. It's like the ball is much wider. I mean, just to throw some ideas, it could be your CCTVs, it could be your electronic devices, cars, etc. That apart, productivity, again, everything is productivity. But what I would like to flag is how consumer tech, and we need to move along there. I took a spin on the supply chain. I'm not going to talk about how the chain in terms of hardware or software for the devices. In terms of services which can be delivered through consumer tech. So my ideal situation will be, as a citizen, whether I'm a small shopkeeper or an MSME or an average citizen, whatever I have to deal with, anything which is a government at any level, be it my city, my department, or even with the income tax or GST, is it possible for me to get everything done within a very short defined period of time from where I am with my devices? Now this, I think, is my holy grail. I don't want anybody to move anywhere, to go to any office. And I hope I made
Seamless,
myself clear.
absolutely
It's absolutely seamless. Now, that is possible today because of consumer tech. We can see the impact much more in the fintech sector, be it transactions.
Jason, I'll come to you. Given that you represent some of the biggest tech companies in the world and you're a leading advocate of technology as well, let me just ask you a little bit about the organization here. In what ways do your member companies engage with governments to build more resilient, transparent, and secure tech supply chains?
The consumer electronics industry is obviously very focused on empowering customers. And the story of consumer electronics is a story of empowerment of consumers, and the industry is very focused on making lives better. Improving lives is at the core of what technology does. So in terms of interacting with government, organizations like ITI, which is a trade association that represents the technology industry, we've been around for 108 years, so going very far back. And our purpose is to inform government about policies that promote technology innovation and ensuring that those policies are designed to empower the consumers that want to take advantage of technology. We were discussing just a moment ago about the advantages of technology. And there's a great book written by Brad Smith, the president of Microsoft, called Tools and Weapons. And it's a great reminder that technology can be used as a tool or it can be used as a weapon. What we're focused on is making sure it's used as a tool, and government is focused on making sure that it's not used as a weapon.
The gaming industry, of course, historically has pushed boundaries of device performance, both in India and the US. But how has that demand for high-quality gaming influenced the market for consumer devices in turn?
What you're going to see now in the future, if and when there is legislative and regulatory certainty, what you will see is that all the real money gaming platforms that are today profitable and the unit economics are absolutely brilliant simply because it's almost a 50 million gamer market in India right now. You will see a lot of that money that is now going into game development. And that's a 2 to 3 year cycle. And that's when devices will come to play. So console gaming is actually 1% of gaming. So you'll see that, the PlayStations and the Xboxes are just expensive devices, right? And not many people in India can afford it. So once the content comes in, the price of hardware and the middleware associated with gaming will also start coming into play. Why? Because then local Indian manufacturers will see the opportunity to come in and do technology tie-ups and partnerships, etc.
But let me ask you this, Vivan. When you look at how consumer tech markets are regulated globally, shed some light on the various ways. What are the different approaches? And which is, of course, perhaps the most ideal way to fostering responsible innovation?
There are areas of convergence and divergence from the world, and particularly between India and US on issues of tech regulation. And this is by no means an exhaustive list, but to run you through a few. Data protection, which is, Mr. Gopalakrishnan is no stranger to data protection. He worked on the bill when he was in MeitY and in PMO. But we have largely taken an approach which derives from a consent-centric informed user consent-centric approach, which is very akin to what we see in the European Union. Where we deviate is, I think we brought a little bit of an element of trusted supply chains within data protection, by which I mean we allow cross-border data flows, but only with countries with which we have a trusted relationship. Those countries are yet to be notified, but I think we won't get too many surprises in the first list. On content regulation, I think, again, where we are thinking alike in the US and India is that there needs to be a wider conversation on the kinds of harms you're seeing online across different platforms and media. But I think where we're beginning to deviate a little bit in India, and I think we'll need to course correct, is when we think about regulating for those harms, we shouldn't level up the regulations that we have and borrow from TV. We don't want a program code, we don't want an advertising code, and the Constitution sets out a broad parameter for what is allowed in the country and what is disallowed, and to the extent that we can reflect that in future codes of conduct for different media, it would keep us in sync a little bit with the developments in the US. On public procurement, I think, again, there are convergences. We see Make in America, Buy America, let's make every country great again is a theme that resonates across the world, because self-reliance is not just a buzzword, it is a necessity, as we've seen during COVID. But I think where we begin to deviate a little bit, where we need to swing the pendulum back, is thinking about domestic value addition a little more carefully. Particularly when we think about the things we're talking about today, consumer tech, software and services. In fact, in software, it's very, very hard to define what domestic value addition means. We were just having a conversation on artificial intelligence with some of the largest companies in the world, with Praveen ji and his peers. And it turns out that every bit of AI, for instance, that Microsoft, for instance, engineers, has a little bit of India in it. Every bit of AI that IBM is working on has a little bit of India in it. So India is inextricable from AI systems that are being built for consumers, B2C systems particularly. So I think we need to think about the constructs around public procurement a little more carefully as we move forward. There's also the theme of intermediary liability, and intermediaries are, those that facilitate consumers to interact with businesses online. Across the world, we're seeing narrowing of the so-called safe harbor that they've enjoyed over the last 20 years. Deepak Jacob will tell you a little bit about safe harbor, because he was behind one of the seminal cases that defined safe harbor in India. He was defending eBay's CEO from going to jail in 2007-8, and that defined the first amendment, large amendment that we had in the Information Technology Act to give safe harbor to intermediaries online in India. We're seeing a narrowing of this construct because I think it was cast a bit too wide to begin with. Everything from cyber cafes to social media as an intermediary. So you're, again, seeing the pendulum swing a little bit back towards narrowing, but here we need to be careful not to get the balance wrong between innovation and accountability.